Warning, the following communications are not authorized. Please disable your signals and report to your local re-education center immediately. Failure to comply will result in immediate reprimand and capital punishment.
Live, live, live. Everybody's live. No audio issues today. Eric Butler.
Amazing.
It really is. The first thing right off the bat is you're black, I've heard. A lot of the thing that's going around on Twitter and the leftist circles today are how there are so many black people behind Trump at his latest rally, holding Blacks for Trump signs, wearing T-shirts, and most of what's on Twitter is saying how fake it is. Seriously, are they real people? Somebody says. I don't know about you guys, but I don't refer to myself as black. Not sure if Blacks for Trump is a real thing. That's kind of weird that you don't refer to yourself as black. But this has been going on. You were saying that you met people who started Black for Trumps before?
Well, I just in DC at one of the. I mean, you got to remember, like I was in DC once a month between October and January, so you see a lot of people there, and you know, we met briefly. I don't know if he started it, but I know this. I don't even know his name, but I guarantee you've seen his face. He's like kind of like the main guy that he wears the white T-shirt with the Blacks for Trump. Super chill dude. He was with a handful of buddies, and as we're walking down Constitution Avenue, this was probably either the October or the November rally, and people were stopping to take pictures with him. So I mean. Long story short, it's 100% real, and it's hilarious, right? We always talk about the bigotry of low expectations, and this is this isn't even low expectations. This is just regular bigotry, right? Like you are not like. Remember when Chelsea Handler told 50 Cent that he couldn't vote for Donald Trump because he's a black guy? Like that's exactly what we have here. It's like, how dare you not think what we tell you to think. Actually, it's not even about doing anything. It's just like wrong think. We obviously saw it recently with Nicki Minaj. It happened even I was just on my golf kick, but even when you remember that Tiger Woods, he didn't even come out in favor of Donald Trump, but he said like, I respect the office of the president. Now Tiger Woods
can't do that.
Gazillionaire. So we have to assume that Tiger Woods, being the smart and disciplined man that he is probably not gonna vote for somebody who really wants to take away their success. So, and just last little bit here is, I commented on a Pix 11 news story on Instagram, I think, because they ran this story about how Rikers Island prisoners were suffering and they were committing suicide, but they did not run a story about how somebody that they let out of prison, they rearrested 10 hours later. So I just kind of was like, granted, it was a little whataboutism, but that's what the comments are for, right? It's like, come on, guys, show both sides of the story. But anyways, somebody lashed out at me and said that I was a white supremacist. Can we even say that?
Well, you are. You can say white supremacist.
I was a white supremacist, and that I was using face cream to achieve this gorgeous, light brown tone. So, I mean, these people are, they are insane. They're absolutely insane.
Well, you know what they say about the light-skinned black guys? I don't know. I just hear that's the thing. This article I found about the person who started Blacks for Trump from October 2020 at a packed campaign rally. I'm guessing the man was Black for Trump's founder, Maurice Simonet, a.k.a. Michael the Black Man, a former member of a violent cult who posed an anti-Semitic screeds and racist conspiracy theories online. Now we got to see what they mean by that, because you can never trust what they mean by that. Let's first see this guy.
Yeah, that's him. Yep.
Great. Facebook. Higher ups, FBI falsely accused Trump like FBI did. Yahweh, black leaders, and all Republican presidents from 1944 joint chiefs of staffs, Rockefellers. So that's their example for anti-Semitic screeds. I don't know what screed is. Maybe they mean screens. But Rockefeller stuff is what they're saying. I don't know how that's anti-Semitic. And Rothschilds. In the day when the Rockefellers and Rothschilds are anti-Semitic slurs, you know, it's like 1999 or something. And so this is their example
You
of
also
racist
can't say
conspiracy
Soros,
theories.
right? Like if you say
Yes.
Soros, that's also anti-Semitic. Just
So what was this? This was racist conspiracy theories. White man and black man wake up. They, Ishmael, are killing us Americans all over the world. Ishmael, the father of all East Indians, Arabs, Pakistanians, Middle Easterners, must repent and be saved quickly before I wake up Latin and white Gentiles to unite with the black man. I mean, this is stupid stuff, but like, I keep going back to racist conspiracy theories. It's so general. Race war, Russia, China, Ishmael, like, it's a lot of silly stuff, but like, it's like Black Hebrew Israelite stuff almost. Masons, Immigrant Act, gang signs. Just going through all the buzzwords here. They're coming for you now, Eric.
whoa.
I thought there was no crime in South Dakota.
I think it's probably a kitty in a tree or something. They're going to get a cat out of a tree or something.
So this guy who started it, I don't know what's the violent cult they're talking about. Now I got to click on this.
Yeah. Dude, the Intercept. Oh. Former member of violent cults. Oh, my God.
What's the cult?
You would think they'd put it right up front, right? Like if it was the Branch Davidians or if it was
He changed his name to Michael the Black Man. That's a hype name. He's like Meta World Peace.
Exactly. Yo, good for him, man. Dude, live your truth, right? That's what we're always told. So you can't.
Yahweh Ben Yahweh.
All right.
Was the guy who was jailed for a series of killings that included the beheading of one victim. Well, maybe he was in a cult.
All right. I that is news to me. So props to the Intercept for the deep dive. I don't know the guy's whole history, but I will say, you know, in talking to him for maybe 3 to 5 minutes on Constitution Avenue, you know, he was making sense. So again, I don't know. I was not part of that cult. I'm not familiar with his whole background, but it doesn't matter because the fake news is going to find something anyways. Like if it's not that, it's something else they would say, just like they're doing with Nicki Minaj right now, right? Like they're talking about her husband and things that I think something that he is accused of from 1994, I believe. But so the point is, it literally does not matter. If I were to, you know, go viral for something pro-Trump, they would talk about how I got in a fight in 6th grade or something. It wouldn't matter. You know, it wouldn't matter. They're gonna find something. They have to pull a string from the most obscure event in your life and blow it up into what you are today, right now.
Well, the fact that they're just saying it's fake, but it's also run by a guy who's a cult leader, those two things can't mix. I'm sure they would think Latinos for Trump, engaged for Trump is all fake. Like, what does it take for somebody to just print out a sign and say, like, I'm this person for that person? It doesn't take anything. So maybe they should just go with, it's not a centralized movement. It has no specific leader. It's just an idea. Maybe that idea would fly with them. Something hilarious that I sent you, I want to get to this story, was Washington Post, and of course they're paywalled, so I'll show somebody on Twitter who copied it. Seattle Times, so I'm guessing they just get fed the same stories. Oh,
wait, so I must still have, because I was able to read the whole story from the link you sent somehow. I didn't
they usually give you like...
I didn't reach my limit.
Yeah, exactly. Many unvaccinated people are now opposed to getting a shot. The challenge is trying to get to them. So that's the latest story. Barriers to getting the shot and information with the vaccines have hindered the unvaccinated but willing, who account for 10% of the U.S. population. So now they're saying, Eric, that it's not that people don't want to get vaccinated. the last 10% of people who have waited a year, or I guess like 9 months, let's say, to get vaccinated. It's just that they're not able to find where they can get one or how to get there. That's the problem that we're facing.
And they don't know that it's free, apparently.
I don't think even people who are for forcefully vaccinating people, I don't even think they would believe this.
No, nobody would. It reeks of desperation, right? I mean, you've got protests happening on a weekly basis, basically, in the vaccine strongholds, in the deep blue strongholds of New York and California. There's constantly a protest against this stuff. But the Washington Compost, as I like to call them, is still trying to convince people that everybody wants it. They just I mean, how condescending are they going to be, right? First they say, well, of course a black person can't like Trump. Of course a Latino person can't like Trump. And now they're saying, well, of course they want to get the shot. They just don't have cars and they don't know that it's free and they can't read. So we have to, I mean, how condescending can you possibly be on every single level? This is such condescension, but it makes sense, right? This is how stupid they think we are. This is why they trot out, I don't know how else to describe him, but that feminine TikToker, that Gen Z TikToker with the long nails to push the vaccine, the singing chick who, you know, was like just one of the creepiest things because she's like just turned 18 and they put her out there to convince young people between 12 and 17 that they need to go get this thing. They think we are all really, really stupid. And that's another thing that kind of gets me is like you have all these people who get into this controlled opposition hysteria and delusion to the point where if anybody says something that you agree with, you automatically say, no, that's fake. That's fake. They're controlled. It's controlled opposition. And true. I'm sitting here like they don't think that highly of you. Like, don't flatter yourself. They think you are stupid. That's why they tried, as soon as Nicki Minaj came out and said that stuff, they trotted out Chris Rock. And then they pulled this stunt with Anna Navarro. It's because you're in their minds, and obviously my humble opinion, but the forces, this evil cabal or Illuminati or whatever you want to call it, the establishment, they do not even think enough of you to subvert you in that way. They are going to push you with the most obvious propaganda that they could come up with. They're not gonna say, oh, okay, we're gonna get Nikki to tell people to question it, and then 2 weeks later, like, no, dude, it's really not. It's not that deep.
Oh, I want to read what they say in that article, but quickly, Anna Navarro, if people don't know what we're talking about, her and what's her name? Sunny something from The View?
Sunny Hostin.
And if you search Anna Navarro, the first things that come up are Anna Navarro fat and Anna Navarro obese. This is not stuff I've searched myself, I promise you. But they had this really weird bit where they were on The View. Here it is. And they're just like, oh, the producer says we need you two to step out during the show. So because they've tested positive. So what you're telling me is you don't know if they're positive or not before you start the show? Or is this staged? Yeah.
Well, did you see what she posted on Instagram in response? Like after this happened? Oh, it's painful to watch. Anna Navarro went on Instagram after she was kicked off and said that she had tested negative twice and she was waiting for a third negative test.
So So that's the problem, is they didn't have a third negative test?
Correct. And she says, now I don't know where they record The View. I don't know where they shoot the show, but it's pretty funny because she went on to thank Kamala Harris. So she tested positive for Rona. She thanked Kamala Harris for being professional. Said
Donald
that
Trump Jr. calls her fat.
She is fat. I mean, no.
I think it's time for a national conversation about the dangers of COVID-19 and obesity. So that's why she said, "Thanks for your concern. I don't have COVID, unfortunately for you. If you want to have the effects of conversation about the effects of obesity on people, your dad's a phone call away." That's different, though. He's 75, and he also beat it. Or
And
just
he's
ask your
also
sisters to call him for you. His sisters aren't fat though.
dude,
So
but look, Donald Trump
not a
is
good burn.
he's more than 6 feet tall, right? He's 6'2" or 6'3". He's a
Mhm.
tall guy. Yes, he's old as well. And yeah, he's a little pudgy, right? I don't think anybody's gonna argue that. But Anna Navarro is built like a bowling ball, right?
Anna
Like,
Navarro, the idea that she's a Republican or conservative in some way, you'd have to literally not pay attention to politics at all. She's been on CNN for so long. She's on The View, and they're just like, she's our resident conservative. Never has she appeared on any conservative show. Is she friends with any person in conservative politics? It's just literally a person who's registered as a Republican, so they can say they have a Republican on the show.
well, Meghan McCain was supposed to be that.
Well, Meghan McCain is a Republican rhino. I'll give her that. Where it's just like everything needs to be like war and taxes. I don't know. And pretending she's like, there's levels to this. It's like Dan Crenshaw, Meghan McCain, Mitt Romney, probably somewhere around there. You know what I mean? Like she's not fooling anybody. These people are only fooling people who don't know and who really aren't like in politics at all, I guess you could say.
And then you have like Adam Kinzinger, or whatever, the guy the Republican who cried at the J6 hearing. I mean, and then he writes op-eds for the Atlantic. I mean, it's a complete joke, right? It's a complete joke. So I don't know. Anna Navarro, and there was another bit about that's confusing to me, and maybe this is worth looking. Actually, it doesn't really matter. But so she was quarantining because of one false positive at a hotel in New York, and she was waiting to fly back home. Now that brings up the question to me: is where do they shoot the show? I thought they shot it in New York, and perhaps she lived in New York, but she was quarantining in a hotel before she flew back home. And none of this makes any sense, bro. Like it's a dog and pony show, right? Like they get him up there, and then I don't know.
Says Manhattan.
Okay, so long story short, none of it makes any sense. It's complete nonsense. And at the end of all of it, she says, basically, they still push the vaccine to tell you, well, I got it. I got a breakthrough case. No. She didn't get a breakthrough case. It was a false positive, so she didn't really have it. So she thanks the vaccine because it works, but the testing is fake. I mean,
speaking of do nothing Republicans or fake conservatives, people are freaking out about some bill that just got passed with red flag laws.
Yeah,
I'm not sure too much about it that 100 Republicans in the House voted for. So I think a lot of things are being used as distractions on both sides right now. Without getting too much into it so we don't get banned, the Arizona stuff is seeming like a big distraction. I'm seeing people saying that this and that and the other, but nobody's actually being too specific about it. If all these votes were duplicated, then who are they for? Nobody's saying if they're all for Biden and whatnot. I don't know. So it seems to me like people would come out and say what is what if it was what really happened. But it seems to me like both sides, like Republicans are trying to distract from passing these bills and not really opposing Biden on anything. And Democrats are really trying to distract from the border. They have successfully distracted from Afghanistan. Now they're trying to distract from the border with this saying that there's whips and all this stuff with the Haitians. Meanwhile, there's like 50,000 people under a bridge. I got to find that. That's crazy.
I think they did clear them out.
Did they?
Now
and put them where though?
Exactly. So I think
were so many people.
I don't know if it was 50,000. I thought it was 15, but I could be wrong.
Did I say 50? I just thought it was thousands upon thousands.
It looked like Coachella. It looked like a music festival, right? I was like, oh, it's lit down there. Like I'm gonna go, watch. I don't know who headlines these festivals anymore. I'm out of touch with that, but I'm understanding. I mean, if it's not Kanye, it doesn't really matter. That it was about 15,000. It was about 15,000, as I understand it. Again, obviously fact check it. It was about 15,000, and then about 4,000, I think, were deported back to Haiti, and that was not easy. They were attacking ICE officials and Border Patrol on buses and on planes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest were pretty much let in, and some were even given ankle monitors, I believe.
Well, that's something. That's better than what they usually do.
So, and look, I do not want to, as a black man, I do not want to play into this, but I will say, in my experience in Oakland and a little bit in New York, just a little bit, and as silly as this sounds, with rap music and the culture at large, the Haitian, they can be a handful, to say the least.
You can't say that.
I mean, I'm just saying.
You can't say that.
I'm sorry. As I understand it, I don't know if you ever listen to Future. I like Future. He's like kind of right behind Kanye as far as I'm concerned, and he talks about it, right? Like, you
need to listen to Wyclef about Haiti. I think
that's very
presidential candidate of Haiti, Wyclef Jean.
That's very true. We could also talk to Hillary about what's happening in Haiti as well.
Oh yeah, I know. I was thinking about that. No wonder they're getting support. This is the story they used for that stuff about the vaccinated people not wanting to go. Yolanda Orozco Ariano decided she would get the coronavirus, blah blah blah. So they use this old Hispanic lady as the reason, and they say about 44% of unvaccinated people were willing to get the shot in June or July, including those who said they would definitely or probably get a shot, and those who are unsure. So that's a lot of people they're probably counting who are unsure. But then they go down to say public officials have so far struggled to reach young adults, black people, Hispanic people, and uninsured people, groups who are unvaccinated but willing at higher rates. Yeah, I'm not going to get it, but I'm willing to get it. That makes a lot of sense. To fill the gaps, a motley contingent of volunteers has stepped in, from nurses ferrying patients in their own cars. So it's so dangerous that you're going to ferry somebody a stranger in your own car to the hospital. I hope you guys wore masks in your cars to keep yourself safe. It makes no sense.
It makes absolutely no sense. I mean, they're telling us that all the rap videos that you put out, all the commercials that you put out,
they still don't know how to get it.
They still don't know how to get it. I mean,
some
my
guys
mind
raised
is blown.
$500,000 for this. Please give me your money so that I can go get people vaccinated. This guy's just a ridiculous situation.
But
anyway,
this makes perfect sense with what I saw more than a year ago at the testing site. When I remember it very distinctly, when a guy showed up on a scooter and they said, "This is cars only," and they recommended that he get an Uber because that was in April of 2020. That was in the height of the hysteria. That was before. I mean, I knew from day one. I knew when the NBA shut down, I was like, this is BS. But anyways, they told the guy, I saw it. You could scroll through, dozens of photos on my Instagram, and there's a picture. It's not a video. It's just a picture of the guy sitting there on a scooter, and they recommend to him that he gets an Uber because everything's so deadly. They won't jab the Q-tip up his nose because he's on a motorcycle, on a scooter, I should say. But it's so deadly that they recommend I mean, how does any of this make sense? None of it makes any sense. And they're still pretending. And look, we know, I think me and you know, that if you were to go, Project Veritas on any of these people, they know. And that's what makes it so evil. You think Bill de Blasio was really sitting at home or sitting in his office like, oh my God, these people, they're in such danger, I must save them. No, he's just made a deal with the pharmaceutical, the pharmafia, as I like to call them. And there's nobody, not London Breed, not Gavin Newsom, not Cuomo, not Hochul, none of these, Whitmer, none of these people are really, truly, I mean, it goes without saying, but like, if you were to get them one-on-one in just a room, no microphones, no cameras, there's no way that they would tell you that they are so scared for the general population that we need to continue to force people to take this thing that they don't want. It's just not real. It's not real. And to that point, I just want to say, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but New York is a complete facade. The mandates are fake. Everything is fake. And the people, I know people in New York. I can think of at least 4 people off the top of my head who are using fake vaccine passports to counteract the fake vaccine mandate. Okay? It's all a complete joke. And it's like, I mean, it's literally like living in hell where everybody's lying and nothing is real.
It sounds like sense. It sounds like to me that they can't get over this hump of the last like 30% of people. Where I live, it's so much higher than that too. And they're still pushing. They basically want 100%. But most places in the States are not over 70%. They're just not. And they're not getting the last 30%. And it's almost like they promised somebody or something that they would keep getting higher and higher numbers. It's like you get a sale, you go to your boss, and he's just like, okay, this is good, but now we need more profits. Okay, this is good, but we need more profits. And it's like, who? Well, we know which companies it is, but like that's what it seems to be. Like it's a sales pitch where we can't get over that last stretch of people and we can't move on from this until we get those last things sold. And now you've got the whole thing with the booster shots. The FDA said no. And now the CDC, who didn't used to be a political organization that made policies. I mean, maybe they did and we didn't realize it. But now they're saying, oh, we don't care. And after so long, they were like, oh, we need to get, nobody wanted to talk about how they didn't have, they weren't passed by the FDA, let's say, what's the word I'm looking for? Properly vetted and tested, approved, yeah. And then they came out with this huge approval, which we all know wasn't a real approval. It was another interim approval that said, as long as you complete the trials in the next couple of years, we're going to give you this approval status. And now we're back to, we don't even need their approval. We're just going to go through because they can see they're already at the 20-yard line. If you know that the defense is going to commit, an offsides or something, why not go for it on 4th down? If they know the public is going to go for this stuff anyways, why not just say, yeah, okay, throw the boosters out there and we're going to keep taking as much profit as we can. And as long as people keep taking it, it's a very interesting ploy. It's a good strategy.
Move the goalpost though. I mean, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought at one point it was between 60 and 70% that would have been herd immunity, and then it went to 70 to 80, and now it's every single person. It's like, whoa, calm down, guys. Like you said it was going to work, and then you pushed it. And as far as the boosters go, all right, we all know it's obvious that the booster is not enticing anybody who doesn't have any of the shots to go get it. So they're literally just selling the same product to the same idiots who bought it the first time. And just saying, do it again, because these people are not buying it, so we just need you to buy it again to make up for what they want, what they don't want.
Well, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer said in like January that they were going to put out boosters, so the writing was on the wall. It was just whether or not people would accept it. I mean, the shot comes out and immediately they're saying, oh, we're probably going to need more, so beware, so that they can be like, hey, we didn't spring this out of nowhere. We said this 8 months ago. And then so it basically leaves it on the government. The vaccine companies, the pharmaceutical companies want no responsibility. To their credit, of course, this is what's going to make them the most money. So you can't sue them if anything goes wrong. And we're going to tell you 8 months ahead of time, 9 months ahead of time that there's going to be another booster. So when people say, what's this nonsense you're doing? We're going to say, hey, we told you. And it's the government that's saying that's recommending it. We didn't say this. The FDA didn't even say this. It's the government that's pushing it for you. And people are still going to say, well, you have to get it or else it's unsafe. And it makes absolutely no sense for anyone who wants to look into things themselves or think of things in their own way.
Yeah.
And we've, and to your credit, 60 to 70%, we were supposed to be fully open here at 70%. We're now above 80 with vaccine passports. And it just never ever stops, and I don't know who who these people are. I mean, the people still voted for Justin Trudeau. The people still voted for the Conservative Party, who also is in favor of vaccine passports and lockdowns. So it seems to me that 70% of people in the Western world are just for this stuff. They're ready to lay down, let the government do whatever it wants, submit to the government. $2,000 a month in Canada is what you'll get for perpetuity. It's enough to survive, but it's not enough to, own any property on its own. And maybe it's a bit less because of American dollar value, but it seems to me, especially in Australia, I think we can say that people seem to be okay with this. And the only people who aren't okay with it are people who work.
Wait, and I just don't understand how Fauci, I'm sure you saw that clip recently of Fauci on CNN, I think talking to Sanjay Gupta and I think Anderson Cooper or Jake Tapper, one of those guys, and he just doesn't have an answer for the vaccine versus the natural immunity. He's just like, well, I don't have he talks about the durability. He says, well, we don't know about the durability of natural immunity, but you also are telling us that we need boosters, which means that's not very durable. I mean, you need a booster in less than a year, but you haven't looked into the natural immunity. And again, I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but I am having a very hard time believing that this is even real. Like, I know people don't want to hear that. Oh, my nephew's uncle's sister's cousin got it, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe you, because you have been brainwashed. You have been beaten over the head for the last 20 months about this stupid virus. So of course, anybody in your life, in your whole life, the person that you haven't talked to since kindergarten gets sick, of course you're going to say, well, that's proof that it's real, and I'm just not there, right? Again, we used to see the word coronavirus on the back of a Lysol can, but they changed it. When this came out, when this first happened, I think you will recall, we were all calling it coronavirus. It hadn't been dubbed COVID-19 until a couple months in. And I think, me personally, tinfoil, think that is because people saw it on the back of the Lysol bottle and said, oh, wait, what's this? And you're like, oh, it's a common cold? No. It's way worse.
It's a type of coronavirus, but I agree that they wanted to change like the
to make it scarier.
The fashionable name of it, because if it's a coronavirus, then it's a type of thing that we faced before. If it's coronavirus ID 19 and we have this technical name for it, then yeah, it's going to be less. Like if you call something, I don't know, if you say a flood's coming, then and you live in Louisiana, you're just like, oh yeah, we've had floods before. If you start calling it a tsunami, then then it's going to be a lot scarier. Obviously those are different things, but terminology matters in terms of what it makes people think of.
Yeah, and that's what they're good at. That's what the left has been so good at, is changing the names of everything, right? I mean, that is how they get all of their agenda through, is with euphemisms, right? I mean, even you could go back to even, something as simple as saying pro-choice. Well, of course I want a choice. Like, I want a choice on if I want to take the vaccine, but they're talking about, to be hyperbolic, about killing a child, right? Like, you had the obligation. You could have worn a condom. You could have. Well, there's a number of things you could have done. I'll
You could have been ugly.
Look, the bottom line is euphemisms are their whole thing, and that's why I am very skeptical of this to even begin with. Even with our influencer friends who recently have come down with the Rona, I think, and I stand by this, I think it is a disease of the brain. And if you, I don't get sick. I haven't got sick since the chicken pox, so I'm not worried about it. But next story, I guess.
I got chicken pox in like grade 9. It was stupid on like March break. This is a picture from under the bridge in Texas. That goes back really far, like to there. And so it's like a shanty town. Shout out to Elijah Schaefer. It's disturbing. There's garbage obviously piling up. Where do you go to the bathroom? You just go into the woods? You go to the other side? I don't know.
Yeah,
it's really disturbing.
On top of
Staten Island.
That would be disturbing without Rona, right? Like with
yeah.
If this was 2019, and we saw those pictures, that would still be disturbing. But now we're also told that breathing fresh air and going to work could kill you. Eating inside of a restaurant could kill you. But that is not that big of a deal.
Just can't answer that question from the Peter Ducey guy from Fox, where she's being asked, how come people don't have to be vaccinated in order to come into the country? And she just can't answer that because she knows it's a double standard. There's a lot of people who didn't like Kayleigh McEnany, but she had her infamous stack of notes with labels on it and answers for everything and statistics. Jen Psaki's just like, you know what? You're just not understanding. As I told you before, this is how our immigration process works. We vet them. We give them background checks. We test them. We isolate them. Yeah, that's all well and good, but they're not required to have something that a U.S. citizen or a person from a first world country coming into your country has to have. It's
they're not
insane.
going to stay long. They're not staying long.
Yeah, it's okay that they get cramped in however many people that was unvaccinated. We're not gonna contact trace these people. We're not gonna say it's a super spreader event, but we're gonna condemn, college football stadium in Virginia for what song do they sing? I don't know. There's so many videos that came out with the college football crowd singing a song.
Well, I mean, I know they're chanting about how much they like Joe Biden.
Yeah, that's a good compilation too that we've watched in the Andrew Says household a couple times.
And I just, for the record, I hate Psaki, her little hair flip, and she constantly is saying, like I mentioned before, but that's a different story. Save that for another day. She's awful.
Or is she Mark Zuckerberg? I was human. I am human. You mentioned that you love Staten Island, I think were your words. But a group opposing indoor vaccine mandates storms food court on Staten Island. So that's been happening in a few places since it happened. Since up here as well in Canada, since it's been instituted a few times, it's happened. Cops haven't really done anything against it. I mean, there was a famous case last week. A woman in McDonald's a senior citizen was kicked out of McDonald's for not having her proper passport, even though she's vaccinated. Another senior, like 70 years old, was tackled today. But what I'm saying is people have gone in and done group things like this. There's a video I found of it. This video thread. A decent amount of people, I'd say like 100 or so. And so they end up sitting down. The mall does not kick them out. They've got right-wing AOC here leading them. It looks like a guy in a Q shirt. Q sent me. I didn't notice this the first time. This guy's got to be a plant, is my guess.
I did notice the Q
Bell.
shirt.
We've got Q sent me. We've got right-wing AOC. There's a few more videos here. This is just them being seated through the vaccine passport thing. Almost as if, I think this is the guy who works here. It's almost as if Bert, who's 58 years old and works mall security at the food court, doesn't want to be stopping every person who is vigilantly against vaccine passports. And then you can see them. Now they're chanting F Joe Biden here. And it's so funny to see a crowd of like 40 plus year olds, old Asian women chanting fuck Joe Biden. Oh my God. What an eclectic group of people. You got QA, you've got seniors, you've got young old people, Mexican cowboys, it looks like, old Chinese women all coming together to eat without a passport. You got Uncle Vito here.
Yeah.
That's probably somebody, my girlfriend's probably related to that guy. But that's pretty interesting. I mean, they can say, like, that off the top we were saying is BlacksforTrump fake. I think, like, Staten Island, which is what, basically New Jersey, but New York in terms of like Guidos and stuff.
I guess that's fair. I mean, it's the you gotta take the ferry, you gotta go over a bridge. It's like, I guess you have to go over a bridge to get to several boroughs, but that's the lone one that it's kind of forgotten, right? Nobody really, you don't go to Staten Island. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's a new mall that opened only a year or two ago, and it was like a big thing. There was all these sales and stuff, like the Staten Island Mall. I think that's the same one. But yeah,
My point is that that's a diverse group of people singing F Joe Biden and being against vaccine passports, which it's always been, of course. But when we're in this world of people who are black, can't, like, Black for Trump can't be real, but he got 13% of the black vote, like the highest Republican black vote in like 50 years or something like that, or maybe not that long, but in the last like 4 elections, I think, since
Reagan,
possibly before Reagan. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. But I know it's the most in recent history. We can look that up just so people don't say that we're making things up. But it's pretending that this type of audience doesn't exist, which is obviously untrue, Eric.
Yes, and that's obviously that's their goal. And it's hilarious to me that, look, Staten Island, I think all of the weirdo lefties in Manhattan, all the elitists, the CNN watchers up on Columbus Circle, which they probably don't even like Columbus Circle, even though it's like, some of the most expensive real estate, but this big bigot gentrifier, Christopher Columbus. Anyways, sorry. They've always hated Staten Island, right? Like, oh, those are the Trumpers and they should just float off into the Atlantic Ocean and I don't care if they die. It's like, people don't even realize that they're actually, as much as you might hate them, they're actually fighting for you too, because the cliff will erode and they will come for you, right? Like, that's why it's so funny when you see a leftist get banned off Twitter or something, they're like, well, why did you do that to me? It's like, you asked for this. You literally asked for this. So when you can't get into, I don't even know what leftists do anymore. They really don't do anything. You can't get into your favorite hipster bar because you didn't get your 16th booster shot. Remember that that Uncle Vito on Staten Island tried to help you, but they don't care. And just fun fact, I believe that Scooter Caster, the woman who posted those videos, was actually the woman who documented my arrest in May of 2020 when we were protesting outside of City Hall, and she actually got arrested with us just for documenting. So they were.
Maybe we could find that. Would she have written your name on it? No results.
No. I mean, no. That was the first time. That's when I basically met all the people that I started hanging out with in New York was on that day. I mean,
that's how you got into a gang. You mean?
Well, it was like a clear. So. It was like a clear division of like, okay, my regular friends, like whatever, people that I was DJing with, my real estate friends, and then, activist friends who were like, because look, I was really just ready to make some money, bro. I had a decent job in New York and they pulled the rug out from under me. And I was like, whoa, this is too much. And I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but the lawsuit that I filed against de Blasio, of course it failed because the system is completely corrupt. And I, unfortunately, don't have enough money to continue with an appeal. But that's a different story as well.
That is. We should do a whole show on that. 8% is what Trump got. And then they're saying actually improved by 4% points. So 8%, if there's 13 million black people, then that's a little less, probably around 1 million black people voted for Trump. And you're saying there couldn't be a group of a few hundred people called Blacks for Trump that go to his concerts, and by concerts, of course, I mean his rallies. So it's a little bit of a fantasy there, Eric, where we're living in a place where nobody who is non-white can be a fan of Trump, and it gets kind of annoying to hear these excuses from either side. People have voted the same, I feel like, for the last 4 years, 2016, 2020, and all the elections there in between in Canada and Brazil and England. And it seems like both sides are trying to constantly obfuscate what the actual goals are, what the actual truth is. And we're getting closer and closer to Republicans and Democrats. And I'm talking about the actual parties in Canada, conservative and liberals, the actual parties championing the same thing. There used to be, before Trump, they were much closer. On the border, Obama and Bush, on immigration, on wars, they're pretty much running parallel patterns there the whole time. We get to Trump and Hillary, and things start splitting apart, right? We start seeing different border policies. We start seeing different economic policies. We start seeing different foreign intervention policies. And as we get towards 2022 now, Eric, we start to see these windows, these Overton windows, overlap once again. Now that Trump's gone and he was sort of leading, like, obviously not right-wing way a lot of people wanted, vaccine push and all that stuff, and not caring about internet censorship that he said he would. Obviously, that's not ideal for some people, but now that Trump's gone and it's Biden and the Republican establishment creeping back in, and up here the conservatives and the liberals, they're getting very similar. Their windows are almost crossing, so you can jump through both houses into somebody's living room, you the voter. And it's almost the exact same thing. And even if you go to fringe parties in here in Canada, like the New Democratic Party or the Green Party, who won a record amount of votes in Germany recently, I believe it was, these are all saying the same thing. And it's almost like I said off the top, 70-80% of people in the Western world now are okay with just the government running their lives. As long as I have Netflix, as long as I have wonderful Chick-fil-A coming to me, as long as I can watch whatever I want and say whatever I want at home, I don't need the freedom to be able to go out and say those things. I don't need the freedom to go out and pursue a better career or a higher wage. Just give me what I need to survive. Put the tubes into me of food and entertainment and gossip and everything. And I'm just happy to sit here and, just violently convulse while all those tubes are feeding me. Taco Bell, Q Guy, they're coming together, whereas Q Guy, he doesn't believe anything he reads in the media, but he believes everything he's told on social media from people, with accounts that also wear t-shirts that say Q sent me here. And that's part of the problem. Is we don't believe all this, but we believe all this. We don't believe this type of craziness, but we believe all this craziness. And these two types of craziness, they meet together in the middle where we're all sort of just like, okay, well, I'm against illegal immigration, but you should also forcefully vaccinate the people who don't want to get vaccinated. Well, I'm for guns and this person's against guns, but you're endangering grandma and you're killing grandma. So you have those people coming together. And then oppositely, in this horseshoe theory that's now turned into a globe theory, Eric, where people like Andrew says are interviewing Black Lives Matter against vaccine passports, and the people who are so swept up on the other side of everything, they're now joining together to say that's bad. You can't be coming together. You can't be agreeing on things that the government doesn't want to agree with you about, doesn't want you to agree about. Sorry. You can only agree on things that the government does want you to agree for, because that's what's being pushed forward. That's being pushed forward is agree with the vaccines, agree with letting everybody over the border, agree with this, agree with that, agree with shutdowns, agree with basic universal income, agree to all that, but don't agree to the stuff that's against the government. It's a crazy time, and I blame the people. I don't want to say boomers, but I blame the people who don't believe anything they read, but they believe anything as long as it's presented to them through a lens of, skepticism, or like Johnny Q Patriot on Instagram has told me so. So that's my rant for now, Eric. And I hope I got the point across, where people are coming together, but at the same time, the people who don't believe in the government on both sides are saying, no, let's stay apart unless it's on the issues that Johnny Q Patriot and Vox says are okay.
Well, I think the bottom line is I think it was Brian Stelter who did a segment recently about how angry he was that Sean Hannity was using the phrase "do your own research." I think that's what this kind of boils down to, is like, don't look into any of this, left, right, or center. You don't have to look into it at all. Just know what we tell you is correct. For anybody, like if you could be Black Lives Matter, you could have been burning down a Wendy's, last summer. But now, if you're not for the vaccine, then you too, just like I just mentioned, it's like it's gonna come for you, right? So last year, Black Lives Matter was at complete odds with anything that even just the color red, right? But now, as the establishment continues to push on and on and on with their agenda, it now has taken over what you were against it when it was Donald Trump, and you kind of, maybe, I don't know where BLM really sat on Joe Biden, But now that he's finally come directly for not come directly for them, but is at odds with what they believe, now it's not okay, right? Like, it was cool for BLM to burn down the country last summer because whatever, we need to get rid of Trump. But now when it's looking bad on Joe Biden, it's like, and Bill de Blasio for that matter, I mean, we all could stand to get out a bag of popcorn and see how he's going to respond, because we know that last summer Bill de Blasio literally did exactly what they wanted him to do, but now they're at odds with what he wants, and we don't know how he's going to respond. But on top of that, he's only, I think, got a couple months, so we'll see.
Now that we've gone through the cycle of left-wing people being upset with obviously things that I disagree with in the narrative sense, and the pretext of like black people being killed by police and people not being cared about in inner cities, whether they're the communist kids or whatever segment of population you want to go with there. Obviously, they've been through their summer of love and everything, where everything they said that they hated was happening, and they were getting attacked by police for it, according to them. Now, people on the other side have gone through their summer of love, where they're getting attacked for protesting and things that I would tend to agree with more, things being shut down and all that. Now, I think both sides are starting to see, hey, maybe since we both have a problem with the way things are being governed, the way the police are being used for right or for wrong, depending on which side you're on, maybe now that we see that the police are being used to enforce laws that might not be for the American people, instead of uplifting them, instead of giving them more opportunities, maybe we can come together on the fact that we're starting to open our eyes, and we're starting to see that the government, no matter what either side seems to say, they're not in it for the people. Whether you agree with Black Lives Matter or you agree with Patriot Prayer, let's say, the government isn't there to support either of you. They're not there to support the communists. They're not there to support the constitutional Republicans. They're not there to support the lackadaisical people who read headlines even. That's what pop culture and late night television might tell you they're there for, but they aren't. They're not actually there for anyone but themselves. And what people are starting to realize, I think, is that even when they say do this, do that, and the other, when you comply, it still doesn't mean they're going to give you what they promised you. It still doesn't mean things are going to get better. It's keep doing what we say. And if you stop doing what we say, well, we're going to punish you for it. And we're going to start using and holding your rights and your freedoms up against your face as the dangling carrot. And we're still going to take your money. You're still not going to get better roads. You're still not going to get better healthcare. You're still not going to get all these things, but we're going to tell you that we're going to do it unless you listen. And if you don't listen, you know what, you're still in the shit. And I know we've discussed this before, but I keep going into this mentality where the government's making this promise of something, and I used to be like, you know what, stop wasting my money. But now I'm starting to think, if you're stealing $1 trillion of the U.S. taxation every year, it's 3.4 trillion, I believe, is the budget. Somewhere about that a couple of years ago. If you're taking that much money anyways, then why can't you make school free? Why can't you build better roads that heat from underneath and melt all the snow? Why can't you do all these things? If you're stealing our money anyways, then why can't you give us some of the free stuff you promised? They still can't even do that. Bernie Sanders' free college tuition plan is a horrible plan. It loses $80 billion, I believe it was, over 10 years. I did the math on this last year. But that doesn't mean they can't afford it. America can afford a terrible, terrible plan on free college tuition that loses a whole bunch of money, but they still won't do it. America can afford to put a 50-foot wall across the border, or they can put 100,000 guards on the border so that nobody can cross, but they still don't do it. They allow these things to happen so they can say, hey, we're going to dangle this carrot in front of you, and if you do what we tell you, then maybe this stuff is going to stop, this turmoil is going to stop. But I think we've all found out, Eric, that even if you think you've caught the carrot turns out to be then CGI or a holographic image.
It's a
and
mirage.
Like, oh, we're actually 100 feet back here. Come and get us again, please.
Yeah, and so just it begs the question, right? Now the quote unquote extremists, you could call them right wing, or you could say the BLM, everybody who's dug in their point of view, they both know now that the system does not work for them. So it begs the question, who does it really work for? It's just them. It's Don Lemon in an office at CNN. Who do they really work for? There's only there's only I can think of. I'm thinking of Don Lemon, CNN, and of course D.L. Hughley, who we spoke about at least once before. Those are the type of people that parrot every single talking point that comes from, I don't know, a White House press release or something, and they just agree with every single thing. Who is that? Who it's really for? It's just, like, where does the money go? Ask Bill de Blasio, the $850 million worth of taxpayer funds that was supposed to be for mental health in New York City. Where did that money go? Where does every time, you collect a paycheck and they, depending on what state you're in and what percentage they take, and now in New York, it's the worst because they have a city tax on top of the state and the federal, and there's garbage everywhere. There's crime everywhere. So who's getting paid? Where is it going? That's an honest question. And on top of all that, they've shown us that they are ready and willing to print more. So why not just leave us alone and do what you're going to do? Just like I mentioned with the pharmaceuticals. It's like the deal has already been done. Nobody at Pfizer sat around and worked for free. You think they're working on a draw commission and they get a little bit after every time you jab someone? No, those deals, I believe, have already been closed. Look at Trudeau. He mentioned it, a couple months ago about how he made a deal with Pfizer for booster shots well into 2024 or something. The deal has already been done. So why are they harassing us if it doesn't matter?
I was going to ask the question of even this $1 billion taken from the NYPD, where does it go? And it goes to places that, are just, it just circulates. Like I was explaining to somebody recently about somebody I know who ran a magazine, right? And the marketing dollars that would come in for ads for this magazine that like nobody reads. Like it has a huge circulation. It's at the subway station, the train station. So you can say it reaches like 200,000 people a month, let's say. But is anybody, saying, Bennigan's coffee or whatever? I think that's a Seinfeld reference. I'm gonna go out and buy that right now. Of course, that doesn't happen. There's no turnover rate from this this magazine, but we have this huge circulation. So we pay $30,000 for that ad. Where does that money go? That goes into paying the people, and then they turn around and they say, look, we have 200,000 people reading this magazine advertising company. And they can say, oh, boss, look, our stuff's being seen by 200,000 people. So they get $30,000 and then they get commission and then the next person gets commission. It's all, a circulation of funds that doesn't end up actually doing anything. It's just so that people can, keep it's a large part of what the economy is. And I'm reminded of a video I did years ago, 2017, about look how youthful I am, Eric. About the UFC or the NFL giving $100 million to social justice causes, and it ended up just being they gave it to groups. $89 million has been earmarked over a 7-year period for national and local projects, and it was just giving it to groups of people who ran charities from former NFL players. So a bunch of former NFL players were like, give us $100 million if you want us to stop calling you racist. So they give that to them. And then what do they do with that money? They spend it. They give it to the charity X for write-off. They give it to Guy who's going to, promote this for them. And a whole bunch of players in the league were upset about this because obviously it didn't help anything. But this is just how the things go.
That's
the money gets circulated around and no results happen. And this is our society that we live in.
That's the
Am I an anarchist Jackson now?
Or I think that's the Al Sharpton model from like the late 80s, early 90s. Is like you wouldn't want for somebody to call you racist, would you? It's
your a very best friend, Richard Simmons.
It's mob tactics, right? It's the same thing. Like it'd be real unfortunate if somebody came here and smashed all your windows and burnt your store down. That'd be you wouldn't want that, would you? That's exactly what it is. So here we are, man. I don't know. Maybe you are an anarchist. Like, I think maybe I might be too. Just a little bit too many Michael Malice videos or something. I don't know.
Exactly. I believe in the free market. Don't get me wrong, but the whole problem that I'm seeing is there's no accountability for people who mismanage things. No results are required for people for the general calling the shots in Afghanistan. Nobody has to be
no consequences. But if you were 2 days late on a credit card payment, or if you're 2 days late on a rent payment, they're gonna don't you worry, they're gonna remember that. So
Drone strike some small children. No problems there.
Nothing.
10,000 people, let's say, under a bridge over the border. No consequences there. It's all this stuff. Oh, the CDC, the tests have been faulty. No problem there. Oh, we lied about this. We were wrong about how many people were going to get sick. And so we made you stay home. We made you lose your job. No consequences there. It's just a big circle jerk. And I'm wondering, day in and day out, like, there's so many battles to fight, starting with getting our freedoms back. But after that, then what do? I think maybe we have to get the leaders out that we had all these problems with, no matter what side you're on. And maybe the answer is more focus on local governments. That might be what it is, because a lot of the problems can be solved locally, whether it's mask mandates in schools, whether it's, weird sexual things being taught to children, whether it's misplacement of funds, like actually fix my roads, please, actually lower my taxation for like property tax or sales tax. Some people are doing it.
It runs so deep. I mean, think about the bullet train in California, billions of dollars to make a fast train from San Francisco to LA, stopped mid construction because they ran out of money. Where did it go? I mean, how does this happen? And just really quickly, not only do I know people still in New York that are carrying around fake vaccine cards, you know who you are. You better be watching every single episode. We should get
a photo of one, but we'll blur with their stuff though.
I know one person, at least one person, who's also doing it in California. They're playing with this huge charade. It's all completely fake. And on top of that, I know my old real estate buddies in New York, and one of my first real estate jobs when I got there, 4 of them, a different 4 people, not the same 4 people carrying around fake cards, are literally had their last day at work on Friday because they won't get the shot. As everything else collapses and there's no consequences for anybody else except for regular, Brooklynites, like regular people. Actually, they're not even from Brooklyn. We're talking like uptown, like Harlem kids. You know what I mean? Like uptown stuff. And they can't even go to work because they refuse to get the shot. While all of the problems that you just named, whether it's the bridge or the drone strikes or the erroneous projections, nobody sees consequences for any of that. But a 30-year-old guy can't go to his real estate job because he won't get the shot. It's insane. Harlem
Uptown, I believe that's where Mace is from.
Harlem World, yeah, absolutely.
Does anybody have to walk across the bridge for some good-ass cheesecake? Give me that cheesecake from Brooklyn.
No, bro.
I mean, honestly, though, you're on a show where you're getting a rap deal, and you can't just do the walk. You're on the TV show. You can't just do the walk. Come on, guys.
It was
Come on, making the band, too.
Because they had to pass another juniors. Walking from 125th to Times Square would have been a long enough walk, right? It's doable. I've done it. I've walked from 125 all the way down to Union Square, but that would have been a long walk, late at night. I don't know. I think it was cold. I feel like they had some jackets. So that would have been a long walk. But they didn't say go to the Times Square juniors. They said go to the juniors in Brooklyn, which is like 3 times the distance. So, that's Diddy just on his, tyrannical music nonsense.
Did you know that Chopper Young City, the youngest guy in that, they didn't use his real name the whole time because he had a warrant out? Like, he went through the whole thing with a fake name because he had a warrant in New Orleans or something. Walk to Brooklyn cheesecake is what I searched. I guess I should put Diddy. But we're talking about making the band too, you guys. Yeah, the band was the name. Shout out to Chopper. He's still around.
A certain age to remember this. This is no Gen Z here. They're not going to understand this one.
Our last story was going to be, though, this one. New York may tap National Guard to replace unvaccinated healthcare workers. So we can't let people keep working who have been unvaccinated this whole time and nothing bad has happened from it. We have to force them to go home so that we can bring in National Guard, essentially slavery at this point, to be being paid. But put yourself in harm's way now into this job you didn't sign up for. And let me tell you, National Guard is just reserves. They are not going to have special skills unless they've gone to school for these special things. This is just going to be people doing grunt work, and you can't force them to work more. Maybe the laws are different in the States. Maybe this is a thing where they can say, hey, we're essentially drafting you to do this stuff, and you can't say no because you're part of the reserves. You're part of the National Guard. But it sounds to me like these are just going to be people doing like hospital work, like janitorial, like medical assistant work, like just stuff that anybody can do. So they're now taking labor forces from the federal government, not because it's such an emergency that they need so many people, but because they want to be able to justify kicking people out, and then they're going to get workers for free. So they're just going to start if all of a sudden you fire 300 people and then you get the federal government giving you a workforce, now your profits are going to be skyrocketing.
Well, it's just pure communism, right? Like, I mean, they just want everything to be run federally. I mean, private businesses, you could look back to the beginning of the pandemic when Cuomo said, well, if you're eager to get back to work, then you should take an essential job. They just want control of every single thing. There's no private hospitals, there's no private businesses. No, just you don't want to do it, then fine. The government owns everything. What's next, right? I mean, we're only a few days away, if this hasn't already happened, for them saying, well, you have COVID, so you can't even come to the hospital. Like, I mean, where that's
going to come, I'm sure.
Where does this circle of nonsense end? I mean, you've told us that this thing is so deadly and so dangerous, but now you're basically on the verge of telling people that you won't even treat them because they have it. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. And one thing about this article that is completely evil, in my humble opinion, is that Hochul, who is, feminist Cuomo, she's arguably
going to
worse.
Church.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
I need you to be my apostles. I need you to go and talk about it. So she's literally invoking Christ in order to tell people to get vaccines. It is now your job on behalf of Christ, says woman who's the mayor now, I guess, right? Governor. Yeah. Sorry. She's now saying, Jesus wants you to go out and apostatize on behalf of vaccines because 72,000, that's a lot of people that they're going to fire. 72,000 people are going to be out of work. They don't have the resources for this. Where are they going to get that? This is going to get dropped. I think that this is going to get dropped, or else they're just going to keep where are you going to get 72,000 people within months?
It's insane. And for her to provoke Jesus is just pure evil. I mean,
Jesus taught us to love one another. And how do you show that love more? But to care about each other enough to say, please get the vaccine because I love you. I'm not Christian, but this is blasphemous AF.
Yeah, it's just like with Cuomo, it has this vibe of abuser. Like, don't make me hit you again, baby. I love you. I don't want to hit you. I don't want to backhand you, but you just, you keep acting up and you're making me do this. It's like, you guys are forcing this on people and you're invoking Jesus. Do you think like a real devout Christian is going to say, yeah, the governor is right. Jesus would know.
Yeah.
A devout Christian would say, I don't know, man. I think I'm going to, ride with God on this one. I think I'm going to take the natural immunity, because we're also forgetting that Cuomo, just like Hochul, I'm sure, and fact check me on this, is going to allow you to abort a baby until the minute that it's born. And that's the same woman telling you to trust God and what would Jesus do? No, lady, you guys are completely evil. They're like pimps. They're like pimps.
You started to sound like Mark Wahlberg at one point. I watched Mark Wahlberg movie, Something City.
I don't know.
Rodden City. Hold on, I'll find it really quickly.
The Departed is the only one I can remember. Right?
Do you have a Mark Wahlberg? Broken City, it's called, with Russell Crowe. Do you have a Mark Wahlberg impression in you?
Absolutely. No, I don't. I can only think of The Departed, so no, I don't.
It's basically like he's from Philadelphia, but he acts like he's got a New York accent all the time.
No, I thought it was Boston.
I'm pretty sure he's from Philadelphia, unless that's a movie I'm thinking. Mark Wahlberg. I was thinking yesterday, what a weird... Yeah, he's from Boston. You're right. My bad. Okay. I was thinking yesterday, what a weird... Not even weird, a crazy family. You start off, one brother is a pop star. The other one's an underwear model. Then he becomes a musician. And then they both become actors. And then one becomes a celebrity chef. Just a really strange and probably very loud family reunion. I was about to try to do an impression, but I won't. Come on, give your mom a call. Why don't you see how she's doing? Tell her I said hello. Fine, Eric. Never mind. All right.
Didn't land. You had to be there.
New York City 2020 Gotham Unglued is available on hardcovers on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, a place we do not have in Canada. I'm shocked. Get it right now for 35 didgeridoos so you can see what's going on in New York. And I'm still encouraging Eric every single time to do this for San Francisco as well so that you can promote it. Can promote the San Francisco one in New York and say, hey, at least you're not San Francisco. You can go to San Francisco and be like, hey, at least you're not New York. And then boom, 1 million sales. That's how it works in my mind. I interviewed Kyle Lucy, a stand-up comedian who survived the lockdowns in Toronto by holding underground shows, basically like speakeasies. One of the funny things he said was, you know how, well, maybe you don't know how, but in comedy clubs, when you have like a minute left or something, somebody will flash a light or they'll have a beeping red light at you in the back so you know that your time's almost up. At his underground comedy shows, he said that a guy would unsheath a sword and threaten you with it when you had a minute left. So he had a bunch of good stories. He's a weird guy. I don't think he'll have a problem with me saying that. But he's very funny. I said he was a mix between Justin Long and Andrew Schultz because he had like a faded beard, not like here, and he's wearing a sleeveless shirt. He's a really weird guy. So it's a good time. I hope you guys will watch that. We're having everything on our Unauthorized Opinion YouTube channel now. So once we can get eligible, we'll have that as just /unauthorized opinions, I'd imagine. Twitter is doing this weird thing now where it's not Periscope anymore. It's Twitter Live. So the numbers aren't connecting to each other. It's not being shown as much for some reason, it looks like today. But everybody who's still there, who's still sticking around through all this crap, I don't know if Twitter makes it's easier for Twitter to censor when it's through Twitter Live. But either way, Eric, I guess it is what it is, and we're gonna have to keep on rocking.
We didn't do any censorable offenses today, though. I don't think. I think we kept it pretty cool.
I don't know. We'll have to see what the final numbers say. But it looks to me like today that they're definitely not getting amalgamated on my screen. And then when I look at Twitter, it doesn't look like it's being shown to nearly as many people. So we'll have to see. And
just last thing, I promise, it's very strange how, back in my day, censorable things were like boobs and body parts. And now it's like, you if you say, well, I don't really agree with this administration, they're like censored. It's like how far we've come, That's it. You can have a cross-dressing teenager, but you can't have a talk about your electoral process. Oh, how times have changed, Eric. You should watch the Mark Wahlberg movie, Broken City. It's pretty good. It's a standard, like, New York corruption stuff, We got to get this guy killed. Mark Wahlberg's here. He's trying to do the right thing. How you like them apples? Unbelievable.